The following is a presentation of the Healthcare Facilities Network.
And welcome to the Healthcare Facilities Network. I am your host, Peter Martin, president of Gosselin Martin Associates. Today, I welcome my guest, Karen Dethloff, Vice President of Facilities and Construction at MetroHealth in Cleveland, Ohio. Karen has been kind enough to invite me into her office, so we are on site in Cleveland. Karen, hello.
Good morning.
So I came out to Cleveland. I was driving through Cleveland, and Karen, we worked with Karen. Jack and I worked with Karen in 2018. And so MetroHealth has undergone a massive transformation since the last time we were here. When I pulled onto campus this morning, there's new buildings, there's new structures, there's old structures, dumbfounded by the transformation that's occurred. So Karen has been able to guide the team through 5 years of construction while maintaining a 101-year-old building and new construction. Karen, how did you do it?
Well, we started well before the design of the new hospital. We knew it was coming. We knew we would have the new hospital in about 5 or 6 years. And so I worked with my facilities team and I said, look, let's take an assessment of everything that we've got infrastructure-wise, and if we don't think it's going to last another 5 years, let's get it in the plan to replace it now, because we're still going to be fighting things that break continuously. And the original campus had 33 conjoined buildings of various vintages, and the oldest building is currently 112, and the newest building was built a year ago. So that's a challenge in itself to keep that running, and the complexities of that. So we knew we were going to be fighting, things that broke just because of their age. So let's get ahead of it for the big stuff, which we did.
So Karen's building, she said 111 years old is the oldest. For the people who don't know about MetroHealth, what is the scale and scope of your campus? How much are you accountable for here on this campus? Because it's large.
Okay. The main campus is about 3.2 million square feet, and we added another 750,000 square feet with the new hospital here. System-wide, we used to be about 5.5 million square feet. We're now closer to 6.4 million square feet, because in addition to building the new main campus replacement hospital, we also built a behavioral health hospital that we opened a month before the new hospital here, and that was another 100,000 square feet, 110 beds of behavioral health that we added.
Wow.
On one of our other campuses.
So one of the things that I told Karen that I'd like to talk about was going through the new construction, the challenges, the opportunities, and then also I want to talk to Karen a little bit about kind of her career path as a female in a predominantly male-dominated profession up to the VP level, very well respected. But I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball because we're here in Cleveland, and I just thought of this, so I'm sorry, Karen.
It's okay.
But, so, Cleveland has great healthcare. I mean, I don't know that a lot of people know that, but it's a very competitive area. There's very good healthcare. You know who your competitors are. How do you, from a system perspective, MetroHealth, how do you compete? How do you try to stand out? What is it like competing in a competitive market in healthcare today when everything is so much under focus all the time? How do you compete? What do you do? How do you do it?
We've become an affordable care organization, and so that's one of the things we do, and we try very hard to deal with the new legislation and the new opportunities coming in from the government so that we can get reimbursement for the population that we serve. We're an interesting hospital in that we're a public safety net hospital, which poses its own unique challenges. But in addition to that, we're the level 1 trauma center. We have the accredited burn unit in the northern part of the state. For a while there, we're the only accredited burn unit in the state. And we have a large research operation as well. So we're not a typical safety net hospital.
Yeah, there's a lot going on at Metro, and also you're located in a neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
There are there are houses around, and so what are some of the challenges of living in a neighborhood where people actually live? Their houses, you guys live here too, and also relative. And I'm pointing out because behind Karen are some of the older structures.
Mm-hmm.
What is the plan with the older structures? So what's it like to operate in a neighborhood, and what's the plan for your older buildings?
There's challenges. We've had cars drive into our buildings probably 5 times in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So that's been kind of an interesting thing. In fact, we've had one car actually pull into and drive into the vestibule of our emergency department drop-off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were lucky nobody was hit.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's kind of they tend to race up and down the street in front of the hospital at night.
So it's a busy neighborhood, and
Right. And we also have a population of patients that live next to the hospital because they are handicapped and don't have transportation, and they literally walk to campus for their care.
wow. You're in the community.
Yeah. So it's really important in the wintertime to make sure all of our sidewalks are clear for those patients to get to the hospital.
Yeah. Does your staff take care of the maintenance, or is that
Yes.
outsourced? So,
Yes, we have a union environment here as well, and that was part of the original union agreement. So they remain and they take care of the grounds summer and winter.
Well, it's a big place. So tell us, Karen, what were some of the challenges that you had as you built this? And it's over here on my right. So as you built this new facility over the last 4 or 5 years, what are the challenges you had operating a department and building a new?
Keeping the old hospital safe, functional, and reliable in that environment, finding enough time for my staff to attend planning meetings and plan for the new hospital, going through all the challenges of the design process and thoughts about how it should be built, and challenging some of those decisions and to get what we thought we needed.
Yeah.
We went from a very distributed infrastructure system to a reasonably condensed system. We had an old, what we call our powerhouse, which is basically our boiler room, with 6 aged boilers in it, to a central utility plant with virtually all of the chillers, all of the generators, I should say most of the generators, the boilers, cooling towers, fire pump, everything is now in a central utility plant, except for principally the air handlers, which are distributed in 2 major mechanical rooms in the new hospital.
Wow.
Quite a change. I mean, we went from the old hospital had over 80 major air handlers. We're down to under 25 in the new structure.
Wow. And it's hard to really describe. You lived it, so it kind of became your reality, but it's really hard to describe the old hospital that you came from, and it literally was, Band-Aids and tape and whatever you needed to MacGyver it to keep it going. You did that.
A little more than Band-Aids and tape.
I was trying to be kind. But,
I try to instill in my staff the fact that we need it working reliably. Don't just fix it for today, fix it for the long run.
Yeah. And what's that like? Thinking of the new construction, is that a mindset change for you and for your staff when you go from the old to the new, where keep it running, we'll do whatever we need to do to keep it running, and now you have a new building, and it's sparkling and new. Did that require a change of mindset for you guys, for your team?
I don't think it's so much a change in mindset for my team. With any new building, you're going to have things that don't work right. And so we're taking care of those things that don't quite work right. We've got a lot of requests for changes that people want to make, so we're working on that. I think the bigger change is people that used to work in the old hospital sometimes put up with things they shouldn't have and would just tolerate something not working. And when they moved into the new hospital, they started to behave the same way, and we said, no, if it's not working, tell us. We
That's
need to make sure
interesting.
it's working correctly.
Well, that's really interesting. So, is there a particular, and not even to call somebody out, because I think it's kind of a compliment to them that they, but is there a particular group, or was it clinicians, nurses, or was it kind of everybody who they are operating under the old mindset, and now you have to tell them, no, if it's broken, tell us and we'll fix it.
Right.
Was that universal?
I think it's not so much the clinicians, but the staff that are tasked with calling us if there's a problem.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a new work order? Do you have a work order system up and
Yes.
running for the new building? And
Yes, we had a work order system in place that we just carried into the new building.
have you noticed, relative to work order management, has there been a decrease, an increase, or is it still too early to tell?
It's surprisingly about the same.
Is it really?
And I think that's attributed to some of the things that people want to slightly change or add versus some of the things that aren't quite working right.
Yeah.
Just getting used to the new system. We went from door hold opens in a lot of places in the old hospital to automatic doors virtually everywhere in the new hospital.
Wow.
And people getting used to working with the new doors.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a challenge because they behave a little differently than
Yeah.
one would expect.
Right.
When we moved into the new hospital, for example, we had a challenge with the elevators. We got some really new elevators that were new models for the organization and for the company that manufactured them. And for the first couple of months, we had a lot of problems with those working properly and all of them staying up and running.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was probably our biggest heartburn
Yeah.
when we moved into the building.
Wow. Was there a particular issue with them, or was there one thing causing it, or was it just across a
It was
multitude
just
of reasons?
A multitude of different things that happened that they had to get the bugs out of this new equipment.
It's interesting because elevators can be the bane of everybody's existence, and I guess you move into a new building and think, okay, we got new elevators. Scratch that off the list of what other challenges were there as you transitioned into a new building?
We had some temperature challenges initially. Some of the heating hot water lines were a little bit clogged up and had to be cleared. And we moved in the first week in November.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, how did the move-in go?
incredibly well. We moved in on a Saturday, started in the morning, and we were done by about 4 or 5 o'clock.
Wow.
And we moved everybody over except women and children's because they had a staggered start date, and they moved in January when their section of an older building was renovated for them.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. I wanted to also ask Karen. Karen, how long have you been in Metro?
Almost 18 years.
18 years. And you weren't in healthcare facilities management prior to coming over to healthcare. You were in facilities management, you're an engineer, you've got a facilities background, but were you in healthcare engineering before joining Metro?
Yes, I spent 16 years at another hospital.
Okay.
First as their clinical engineer, then their director of engineering and maintenance, and then as administrative director of support services.
Okay. How did you find yourself moving into healthcare? Because at the time, right, that had to be heavily dominated by males, I would imagine. So I'm not good at math, but 18 and 16 is 34. So 34 years ago, I'm sure it was
There weren't many.
a completely different world, correct?
Well, and even my class in clinical engineering, as I got my master's degree, I was the only woman in the class.
Really?
And so I started the career. They had an opening at this hospital for a clinical engineer about 6 months before I completed my degree. And I interviewed for it and explained to them that I was going to finish in 6 months, and they offered me the job. So.
Yeah. So do you have your electrical engineer? Is your undergrad electrical engineer?
No, my undergrad actually is a bachelor's in animal science because I started out to be a veterinarian.
Wow.
At a time when everybody and their brother wanted to be a vet.
Why'd you change? Why'd you change your mind?
Could not get into the veterinary college in our state.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Mhm.
And wow. And so that, did you ever think you'd find yourself as a vice president of facilities and construction?
No, not in a million years.
Yeah. Was it tough breaking into a field dominated by men? You're very self-confident, which is good. You're very smart, so I'm sure that kind of helped you. But
Mhm.
how did you go about that, keeping on that path?
It was kind of interesting because as the clinical engineer at this hospital, I reported to the director of facilities at that time. And he did not want to be part of a group purchasing organization in town. And said, why don't you go attend these meetings for us? And so I was offered to go and attend those meetings and met with directors of facility from the other hospitals in the city of Cleveland. And they accepted, most of the men there accepted me as a peer and offered to help me with anything and explain things to me. And so I had a really wonderful introduction to my colleagues through that group purchasing agreement. And when the day came where he was ousted and somebody, and they kind of moved me into that slot in an interim director role, they were there to support me. So I had a really good introduction with my colleagues. The staff in the hospital respected me for what I did as a clinical engineer. I think the staff in the maintenance department recognized what I was doing, and I would frequently bring in tradespeople to help me with things in clinical engineering, and so I had a good working relationship with the staff. The management in facilities, when I was promoted, were a little skeptical of me, and that was probably the hardest challenge.
Yeah.
Especially for an individual who thought he should have gotten the job instead of me.
Yeah, no. How did you go about winning the skeptics over?
Well, just by doing the job and learning the job, I think, and the one individual who didn't want to accept me eventually ended up getting demoted because he did not do a few things that he should have done. And for example, he was standing in line in the kitchen getting lunch, and somebody came out and told him that a line had broken in the kitchen while he was in line. And he says, I'm on my lunch break. That's not the right attitude.
Yeah, no, that's not the right attitude in any line of work.
No.
It's funny how that happens, where often people end up demoting themselves by their actions.
Yeah, and he was on his way out and offered to go back into the union and work as an HVAC technician, and that's how he finished his career.
So how would you, in our remaining time, and I'm with Karen Dethloff, Vice President of Facilities Construction at MetroHealth in Cleveland, Ohio. What advice would you give to young, because one of the goals of the Healthcare Facilities Network is to bring new people into this field because we need them. We need them badly. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give? Yeah, you're a clinical engineer. Obviously, that was a nice feeder path for you into facilities management. Yes. Is there advice you would give to younger folks, either considering a career in facilities management, or maybe they're in clinical engineering, maybe they're in design construction? What would you tell them about this career and this path and their ability to make a difference?
I think it's a very rewarding job. It's a very diverse job. There's never 2 days that are alike. It's a challenging job. There's a lot to learn, and I think that's why a lot of people love it, because it's not the same thing every day. There's something new to learn every day, and it stretches your abilities and your challenge to stretch yourself to be better than you were the day before. And it's gratifying when you figure out a solution to a problem that nobody else has had before.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. So I thank Karen Dethloff for joining me today. This is Peter Martin from the Healthcare Facilities Network. Thank you for joining. Have a great day.